Welcome once again to Flokel Show, a show that informs, shares, and educates. Today I'm looking at the types of forms in Visual Basic. The first form is what we call the standard form, and this is the default window used for most Visual Basic applications. It can contain any kind of control and is highly customizable. And then the second type of form is dialog form, and this is used to create pop-up windows for tasks like alerts, prompts, or confirmations. Dialog forms are often modal, meaning they block interaction with other windows until closed. Then the other type of form is multiple document interface form. And this is a parent form that can contain multiple child forms within it. It is used for applications that handle multiple documents or views simultaneously, e.g. text editors, image editors, etc. Then we have the fourth one, which we call splash screen, a temporary often visual form that appears while the main application is loading, giving the user feedback that the application is starting. Then we look at the creation of and customizing forms in Visual Basic. To create a form in Visual Basic within a Visual Studio integrated development environment, number one, we add controls. You open the form in the designer view and drag controls like buttons, text boxes, labels from the toolbox onto the form. You can arrange and resize them visually. Then after that, you are supposed to set the properties. You select the form or a control on the form and use the properties window to set various attributes such as color, text, size, and event handlers. Then we have handling events. You double click on the form or control to open the code view, where you can write event handling code for specific actions like form load or button click. Then managing multiple forms. If your application has multiple forms, you can create new forms through code, control navigation between them, and pass data as needed. Visual Basic forms are essential for creating applications with a graphical user interface, providing the primary means for users to interact with your application. Forms can be designed, styled, and coded to create both simple and complex user interfaces, making Visual Basic a powerful tool for Windows application development. The types of forms, I then take you through Visual Basic controls. The moment you create a form in Visual Basic, the next thing you do is placing the controls that you are likely to use to link with the event handler. In Visual Basic, controls are pre-built components that developers can use to build the user interfaces for applications. Controls in Visual Basic range from simple items like buttons and labels to more complex elements like data grids and menus. They provide both visual elements and the functionality needed to handle user interactions, making it easier to create event-driven applications. When we look at the control toolbox, this is what we are supposed to see within the control toolbox, and these are some of the controls that we normally pick so that you can place on the form ready to create a Visual Basic application. Starting from top here, you can see we have a label, and students are supposed to familiarize with the symbolic representation of a label in the toolbox, and then followed by frame, checkbox, combo box, horizontal scroll bar, timer, Then we have the direct list box, shape, image. Then we have the text box. We have command button, option button, which we also call radio button, list box, and then we have vertical scroll bar. Then we have drive list box, we have file list box, we have a line, we have data. These are the common Visual Basic controls that every programmer who is going to develop a program in event-driven programming should always familiarize with. It means that by just looking at the control toolbox, one can just identify a label by looking at the symbol, and that means the easier you a programmer does it, the faster you design your application in Visual Basic. Having seen that, then we just need to look at the role of each of those controls which we have seen on the toolbox. We start with the button, and the button is used to perform an action when clicked. Common properties that you find with the button are text, enabled, visible, and then the common event is click. The next control is a label, which displays text that cannot be edited by the user. Common properties of a label will include text, font, forward color, back color. Then we have the control text box, which allows users to input text, and common properties will include text, read-only, multi-line. And common events for a text box will include text changed, key press. Then we have a list box, which displays a list of items from which the user can select one or more items. Common properties will include items, selected index, selection mode, and then common events for a list box will include selected index changed. Then the next control we have is a combo box, and combo box provides a drop-down list for selection, allowing users to either choose an item or enter their own. Common properties of a combo box will include items, selected index, drop-down style. And common events of a combo box is selected index changed. Then we have the checkbox, which allows users to make a binary choice, which is either checked or unchecked, and common properties will include checked and text. Common events of a checkbox will be checked changed. Then we have the other control that we are calling a radio button or option button. This allows a user to select a single option from a group of choices. Common properties will include checked and text, and then common events will be checked changed. The next control is a picture box, and this displays images in various formats, in PNG, JPEG. Then common properties of a picture box will be image, size mode. Common events will be click. Then we have the next control, which is data grid view, used for displaying and editing tabular data. Common properties include data source, rows, and columns. And common events will be cell click, cell value changed. Then we have the progress bar, which visually indicates the progress of a process. Common properties will include value, minimum, and maximum. Then we have the timer, which performs actions at the specified intervals, often for updating the user interface. And common properties will include interval, enabled. Common events will include tick. Then we have the next control, which is a panel, a container that can hold other controls useful for grouping controls. And common properties will include back color, border style, controls for handling child controls. We have another control which we call group box, a container similar to a panel that includes a label and groups related controls together. Then we have the tab control. It provides a tab interface where each tab can contain a separate set of controls, and common properties will include tab page, selected index, and common events will be selected index changed. We have another control as well which we call the date time picker. It allows users to select a date and time. Common properties will include value, format, min dates, max dates. Common events will include value changed. Then we have the track bar, a slider control that lets users select a value from a range, and common properties will include value, minimum, maximum. Then common events will be scroll, value changed. While working with controls, controls are usually placed onto forms through the toolbox in the Visual Basic Integrated Development environment. Each control has properties that can be set visually or programmatically, and events that can be handled to make the control respond to user actions. By using these controls, Visual Basic developers can create interactive applications quickly and efficiently. In addition, we have other controls which are commonly used in Visual Basic. There are several other specialized controls available in Visual Basic, especially within the Visual Studio environment. These controls are often used in specific scenarios to provide advanced features such as web browsing capabilities, multimedia, playback, and custom drawing. And here are some additional basic controls. Thank you for listening to Flokel Show, a show that informs, shares, and educates. We shall present more from next time.